Jeff, we've seen this happen 3 times in the last 5 years where the winner of the round of 8 opener has become the eventual champion. Joey Logano in 2018, 2022, Kyle Larson in 2021. So I'll serve that up there to start. Do we make too much up of this? That is Kyle Larson now essentially maybe the favorite to win the championship because he's got a 2-race head start on preparing for Phoenix?
Nate, I don't think we make too much of it. I think it's real. I think the opportunity to just completely focus on going and winning that championship, the evidence speaks for itself. Like, it's worked. The last 2 have been won that way. So it is a major advantage. It allows you. Look, you're still going to go into the next 2 weeks trying to win races because it matters so much. But the focus goes completely to winning a championship, and it also allows Hendrick Motorsports to put focus on the 24 car and to help them do what they need to do the next 2 weeks to get them into the championship. So I think it's a massive advantage for Hendrick Motorsports, not just for the 5 car, but for the 24 car.
Yeah, it could be good news for William Byron in terms of, he already comes out of Vegas as the 2nd-ranked car in points, and now certainly we'll get a lot of focus at Homestead. But Kyle Larson, of course, loves Homestead, wants to win there. I think it was interesting, Jeff, both he and Cliff Daniels, his crew chief, struck almost this defiant tone post-race last night where they said that, hey, we're going to focus on Phoenix, but we want to go win Homestead and dominate. We want to crush everybody. We want to go to Martinsville and run well. But explain to me the logic in that, because I think it was Stevie said on our broadcast that, okay, at the racetrack, yes, you're going to be focused on running well and making your car as good as you can, but every second you spend away from the racetrack now turns to Phoenix, right? Like every simulation session, every amount of setup knowledge that you have is focused on 2 weeks from now if you're Kyle Larson and Cliff Daniels, right?
Yeah, well, I think the challenge for the negative to this is there's a challenge to changing your process, right? So if you listen to Cliff and Kyle both, they talk about the process, and they have a weekly process that they believe in. They stick to it no matter what the situation is. So do you change that, right? And that's a great question. Do you do something different because it's Phoenix and you can focus it on? I don't know particularly the team does that, but certainly the company does. The company now has a tremendous amount of time to spend on that car. That car will max out everything in regard to tech. It'll just, all the emphasis will go to that. And I think the main advantage in it, because all teams can turn that wick up, the main advantage in it is that you don't have the added pressure of the next 2 weeks. And yes, you go to Homestead trying to win, but if you don't, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Now, racers don't think like that, in the immediate. But when you have a bad day and you're in the rental car going back to the airport, you're like, it's all right. If you're having a bad day and now you have serious work to do, now you just add a whole nother week of pressure. So, those guys that everybody but him, right? Everybody but that 5 team, they have this week, another week of pressure, another week of not sleeping well, another week of worrying about everything under the sun, right? And they don't have that. And it lets you release. And some drivers will say, yeah, I don't worry about it. They're lying. I'm sorry. There's no way that you don't worry about it. And it just allows everyone 2 weeks of time to catch your breath at the end of an exceptionally long season. Think about when you hear in football what it means to have an off week, what it means to have an off week between the last round of the playoffs and the Super Bowl, how the teams use that. Well, Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson have 2 weeks, not 1, 2 weeks to have an off week to prepare. And it's just a massive advantage.
Give me a sense of not just the avoidance of pressure now, like all that weight's lifted, but in terms of the preparation, I would presume Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels had sim time lined up here already for the next 2 weeks. Is all of that Phoenix? I mean, did they worry one iota about Homestead and Martinsville?
I think I had a conversation, spent a fair amount of time just talking to Cliff at Darlington, just hanging out in the garage, just talking to him. And one of the things that he said to me that I believe in this is that, you do the same thing every week. Like, every race matters. Every race is a championship opportunity. I think that mindset means that they probably prepare the same way this week that they would normally. I think that I don't look, Kyle Larson's not the kind of guy that is going to be hanging around the shop just for no reason, right? He's going to go in there and work and be productive, and then he's going to go do his thing, which he should do. So I don't know that the particular team says, okay, we're going to just put all of our focus on Phoenix. I don't think it works like that for this team. I think that they're going to stay in their process. I don't know that, but just in talking to Cliff and his belief and how you treat every week the same, no matter what the situation, you treat it the same. This will challenge that thought process, but I believe that is the mindset that they will have going into Homestead.
And they've certainly been there before, as you said. I mean, this happened 2 years ago. Kyle Larson won the championship 2021 after winning the round of 8 opener. So they have some experience with this, but they almost didn't have this chance, Jeff, where Kyle Larson, he won the race, led the most laps, won both stages, but he had a moment where he got sideways off of turn 2, made this incredible save. Both you and Dale Jarrett analyzed this, I thought, very well in the broadcast. Basically said there's not a lot of drivers in NASCAR, never mind the world, who could do this. Larson talked about it after the race. He said that he just got a little bit out of shape. He thought he had it saved, and then it stepped out real quick, and he thought he was going to spin and hit the inside wall. And around that time, Larson said, I clipped the outside wall and I got lucky. So was this a mixture of skill and luck, Jeff, where it's Kyle Larson? We know he can drive the hell out of a race car, but did he also get saved a little bit being so close to the outside wall?
It was a little bit of both, but a lot of the second, which was skill. Certainly when the right rear came around, that helped stop the spin, right? That helped stop it. But the minute it hit the wall, his response to that was magic. His response to that was just was instinctive, right? It's not something you're thinking about. It is all the years of racing. It is all the experiences you've had. Your brain takes over and you just respond to it. Kyle Larson wasn't thinking, okay, I got to put 2 degrees of wheel to the left. I got to use 6% brake. It's all instinctive at that point. But when I say instinctive, it is from lessons learned of all the years of racing, right? And it just was a response. And it was awesome to watch. And I also want to say that it shows you how on edge these cars are and how on edge the drivers have to put them to go fast. I mean, here's a guy running in the front. He's not running 20th, right? And almost wrecks his race car. And that's what's required. Like, you have to be able and willing to dance on that edge. And what's unique, like this car, you're dancing on the edge and all of a sudden it crosses it and it does it quickly. And it just was a great exhibition of skill, a little bit of luck, lessons learned from the past. And it just was really, really cool to watch.
Take me through it as a driver, because I think you said that the inclination is you want to overcorrect, which I think you mean turn the wheel to the right.
Yeah.
And that's going to put the car on the wall. Is that essentially you have to like tell your brain, hey, I know that I want to turn out of this skid, but you can't do that. I think DJ also said the natural movement here is to stomp the brake, and he applied just the amount of pressure to the brake pedal.
Yeah, there are a lot of things going on right there. I mean, obviously the car's, starting to spin out. He says he thought it was going to spin out. So you're immediately you're turning the wheel to the right, the same way you would on an icy road, right? Like, you would turn the wheel to the right to steer it into the spin, right? So you turn into the right. And the second that the right rear hit the wall, now that's trying to stop the right rear, right, and shove the front back to the wall. If he's got too much wheel in it and he's turning the car to the right, and the right rear hits, it's ricocheting, pow to the. I mean, it happens quick.
Yeah.
Well, so he had the right amount of wheel into it before he hit the wall, that's to me what was the impressive part about it, is that this car is very sensitive to right wheel input. And we've seen it over and over and over where a guy just thinks he's got a little bit of right wheel in it, and it's a lot more than he realizes. It's a lot more effective than he thinks. And I think that's because the left side tires, their tires are so much wider than they were. I don't know what it is, but it just swings to the right quickly. And he just timed it all right. He got the car slowed down. He timed it all right. And it, again, it was a response. It wasn't a slow, steady. It happened quickly. And it was potentially, if he does spin and hits the inside wall, and he had, now think about where he would be in points. Think about the work he would have to do. We'll never know what would have happened. We'll never know, because even if he goes this week to win Homestead, that does not mean he would have won Homestead had he entered the race this many points behind. Things don't work like that. So, that could have been a championship winning save. I mean, it really could have been. And it was just amazing to watch. And he made it look easy, but it's not easy at all.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.